Since I have you, Tom, I got to also ask you about this impeachment inquiry. Do you think that this time it's different, that the Mueller report came out, didn't seem to get as much traction as perhaps some people thought? This one seems to be, certainly the House of Representatives, moderate Democrats seem to have felt that this is different.
Fried, I think it's different from the Mueller report in one key and utterly overwhelmingly important point. Mueller was a guy who sat behind a screen for 2 years. Donald Trump could delegitimize him for 2 years. He had no voice. And all of us didn't really know what was going on there. And it involved a bunch of Russians and in far off places. This is very clear, very easy to understand. It's right before your eyes. A conscientious objecting civil servant working in the White House saw and heard reports that the president called a foreign leader, the president of Ukraine, and asked him to take out a political rival of his, Joe Biden, by opening an investigation into him. That's very, very clear, and it's very easy to understand. A second point I would make, a friend of mine has been saying to me for a while, the Democrats are never going to take down Donald Trump. Only Trump can take down Donald Trump. He said, Trump reminds me of the heavyweight boxer Mike Tyson. No one could beat Mike Tyson. Only Mike Tyson could beat Mike Tyson. And he did it one day when he bit off Evander Holyfield's ear. And my friend said to me, one day Donald Trump's going to bite off somebody's ear. And I think he might have done it right here. He's bitten off a lot more than he can chew here. I'd make a third point, though, Fareed. There's a word that I think is going to become very important in this story. And it's a word that Democrats should hug and Trump should fear. And that word is independence. For Trump, what is so dangerous about this story is that it involves independent, I would say heroic, U.S. civil servants. This CIA analyst at the White House, the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, all the anonymous people who were feeding this analyst at the White House, who saw what the president did, trying to enlist in a mafia-like style a foreign leader to help him rub out a political rival. And these people stood up, and they're going to have faces, and they're going to have voices, and for the first time, Donald Trump's going to be up against an enemy, a challenger, that won't be easy to delegitimize. Independent, heroic, U.S. government civil servants. That's one thing. But for him, I would say, but for the Democrats, I would say, to make hay on this issue, they need to hold tight to that word independent as well. They need to stop these hearings with 30 different knucklehead congressmen asking their uninformed questions. They need to hire, as they did in Watergate, a professional prosecutor, and they need to make this story, Fareed, the American Constitution and its values against Donald Trump. If they go overboard on this and make it the Democratic Party against Donald Trump, not the independent Constitution represented by a professional lawyer, they'll be making a huge mistake. So Democrats need to hug independence, and Trump needs to fear it.
Desde Ronald Reagan, todos los presidentes han sido amenazados por miembros de la Cámara de Representantes con ser enjuiciados políticamente. Pero la historia ha revelado que no es tan fácil destituirlos. De los 45 presidentes que ha tenido el país, solo 2 han sido sometidos a este proceso. Ninguno de los 2 perdió el puesto. Un tercero dimitió ante la inminencia de ser procesado. Este es Andrew Johnson, demócrata, fue el 17º presidente y el primero en ser sometido a un juicio político en el Congreso en 1868. 10 días antes había destituido a su ministro de Guerra, Edwin Stanton, sin el consentimiento del Congreso. Supuestamente Stanton estaba conspirando con los republicanos. Hasta 11 artículos de enjuiciamiento fueron aprobados por la Cámara de Representantes, pero en el Senado solo se contemplaron 3 de estas acusaciones. Al final, Johnson se libró de ser destituido a falta de un solo voto. Llegamos al republicano Richard Nixon. Para aclarar, Nixon nunca fue sometido a un juicio político por el Congreso. Estuvo muy cerca, pero antes de que la Cámara de Representantes votara para abrir el proceso, dimitió. Esto fue en agosto de 1974. Se sospechaba que Nixon estaba envuelto en el encubrimiento del robo de documentos en la sede del Comité Nacional del Partido Demócrata en Washington, ocurrido 2 años antes en el edificio Watergate y en plena campaña presidencial. Nixon hizo todo lo posible para obstaculizar la investigación y está a punto de ser procesado por obstrucción de la justicia, abuso de poder y desacato cuando decidió tirar la toalla.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Y llegamos a 1998. Esta mentira bajo juramento fue uno de los 4 cargos del proceso de destitución que se presentaron contra el demócrata Bill Clinton en la Cámara de Representantes por intentar ocultar sus relaciones sexuales con Mónica Lewinsky, una becaria de la Casa Blanca. Fueron 4 años de investigación y un informe de 445 páginas del fiscal especial, pero finalmente solo 2 cargos llegaron al Senado, que en enero del año siguiente decidió no destituirle. Lo cierto es que ni los tiempos, ni las acusaciones, ni los presidentes fueron los mismos. Solo el complicado proceso de destitución permanece. Miguel Ángel Antoñanzas, CNN, Atlanta.
22 years after Princess Diana's visit, they're still finding and destroying landmines in Angola. Victoria has no memory of the princess. She doesn't even remember the brutal 27-year civil war. But it's up to her to remove its lethal remnants. She's one of the best at it, chosen to meet Prince Harry. The pace is painstaking. They clear just 40 square metres per deminer per day. Next to a village where children cross tracks that hundreds of mines were once laid to protect. A generation that didn't live through the country's dark past, but whose lives are still shaped by it. Manuel and his cousins were picking mangoes when they picked up a metal object. He and his cousin lost their legs. Their other cousin was killed in the blast.
The war ended a long time ago. A lot of people passed by that spot and never found it. It had to be on the day when the children were there.
More than 1,000 minefields remain across the country, a constant threat to an innocent population.
We don't produce ammunition and mines in Angola, but all these kind of items came from abroad, in other countries, Western countries.
There's plenty of progress here too. The minefield where Princess Diana walked is now a busy street.
They've excavated out and they've uncovered a mine.
And throughout Angola, Fernandez's organisation, Halo Trust, has cleared close to 100,000 mines. In large part, he says, thanks to Princess Diana.
She made the donors to be aware that the international community is also part of this problem.
At the hospital visited by a princess and now by a prince, the head surgeon is surprised by how very unroyal it all seemed.
I think that rarely will a child follow the mother's steps, but if he is following his mother's steps, he will also show humility, because he will also feel in his heart the suffering of the victims who are here.
A humility, he hopes, will once again lead to action, so that his country can finally declare itself landmine-free. Max Foster, CNN, Huambo, Angola.